Travis and Jason Kelce's shocked reactions to Taylor Swift's surprise visit to the New Heights podcast studio on Wednesday, February 12th. Travis Kelce sat back in his chair and laughed heartily as Jason told him a funny story from their early football days. In the relaxed setting of the New Heights podcast studio, the brothers were discussing NFL rumors and the weekend's games. Neither of them had imagined that an unanticipated event would cause the entire studio to catch fire in a couple of seconds. Known for being quite gregarious and funny, Jason Kelce grew silent as the studio door suddenly opened. As though he couldn't believe what he was seeing, Travis's eyes widened. Taylor Swift entered the room with a big smile on her face while sporting casual jeans and a loose sweatshirt. It's not real. Jason was the first to react. He stood up and rubbed his eyes as if he were dreaming. Did Taylor Swift just walk into our studio? Travis, who usually kept his cool under such circumstances, could not hide his confusion. He laughed and scratched his head uneasily. "You didn't tell me anything, Jason." Taylor walked over to the two brothers and laughed. "Jason isn't at fault because I set it up myself. I wanted to surprise him a little." The atmosphere in the room quickly became more lively than it had been. Jason pulled out a chair for Taylor and kindly offered her to join him for a segment on the program. This may be a historic moment for New Heights. The title of this episode ought to be Taylor Takes Over. As Taylor started giggling, Travis just sat there, looking at his girlfriend with a mixture of pride and confusion. The three of them laughed and joked throughout the tape, talking about music, football, and behind-the-scenes activities that no one knew about. Maybe there will be another surprise next week, as Jason jokes at the end of the podcast. Maybe it's Beyoncé. "Nobody can predict anything in New Heights," shouts Travis, shaking his head as Taylor laughs. The Kelce brothers' new podcast had an emotional event that resulted from Jason Kelce losing emotional control when he heard his younger brother. Kelce, Travis, discuss your first time proposing to Taylor Swift on the show. Travis Kelce was sitting in the studio sporting a graphic hoodie and a backwards cap. He was grinning broadly and seemed to be in a good mood as he talked about the momentous day in his life. He couldn't contain his joy as he talked about the momentous occasion with one of the most famous musicians in the world, Taylor Swift. "All right, Travis," Jason said. "Tell me the truth. How much did that ring cost?" Travis smiled proudly. "Okay, so what am I supposed to say?" "For her, it was worth it," Jason said. "What? How big is the diamond? Which style?" "Veet." Travis smiled, looked down, and made an odd head-scratching motion. "You know, it took me a while to decide on this ring. I wanted it to be beautiful, but I also wanted it to have meaning for Taylor." Jason was silent for a while, his eyes gradually becoming more serious as he realized that his brother was acting quite agitated. Then Jason muttered, "So," lowering his voice, "what is so special about it?" Travis remarked with a little smile and sparkling eyes, "I chose a vintage diamond because Taylor loves things that are timeless and have a backstory. I also engraved a small symbol inside the ring that could only be read by the two of us." Jason stared at Travis for a moment, then took a big breath. He blinked multiple times, as if trying to hold back his emotions. Jason's voice started to stammer, making it impossible to communicate. "After all, isn't it AT&T?" Travis laughed, but when he saw how upset his brother was, his smile turned to sadness, adding, "This should have a worthy ending, Taylor," Travis said. "She's very sincere and I can't let her down." Jason tried to relax by lowering his head and resting a hand on the bridge of his nose. A moment later, Jason looked up with proud eyes and spoke in a tremulous voice.